Make contact, stay connected. Hey friends, Diego the podcaster here, asking you to please subscribe today to KGRA Digital Broadcasting. KGRA Digital Broadcasting is the #1 official contact for the best paranormal and alternative digital broadcasting network on the planet. Subscribe today and get full access to all content. Watch or listen to shows in our classic vault containing all our current archives and the KGRA classic broadcasts. Use promo code Let's Find Out and save 30% on your membership. That's promo code Let's Find Out in all caps to save 30% off your membership today. Make contact, stay connected. Go to kgradb.com. That's kgradb.com today.
Are you curious about the unknown, the unexplainable? Do you find yourself intrigued by the mysterious and paranormal side of our world? Join us on an adventure into the world of inexplicable discoveries and investigations that may someday give us the final answer as to what may be behind the veil of reality. The borders of space and time have opened once again, and transmitting from the mountains of West Virginia, it's time once again for Let's Find Out with Diego. The universe is waiting for you.
Transmitting from the mountains of West Virginia, it's another episode of Let's Find Out with Diego. Thank you for taking this journey with me. On this episode of Let's Find Out, our guest ventures into the unknown realm of cryptids. As an author, researcher, and cryptid enthusiast, his book, Bigfoot Origins, Search for the Cryptid Homeland, serves as a daring expedition into the enigmatic world of Bigfoot. The quest for the truth by these elusive beings will help us unravel the mysteries shrouding Bigfoot origins, nature, and potential habitats. This book reminds us that the search for Bigfoot continues. All this plus more. Please welcome author, researcher, and Bigfoot investigator, Mike Dupler. Mike, my friend, welcome back to Let's Find Out. Man, I haven't seen you since episode 16. It's been quite a while.
It has. Been having tons of fun out there in the woods.
Oh, no. Right now, now, is this temperature perfect for Bigfoot investigating or the worst time to do it?
I'm in Tennessee, and this is just the end of deer season, okay? Actually, deer gun season ended today. So usually during gun season, they'll hit dense woods like the big deer do, and it'll take them a while to migrate back into the woods to start their adventures, whatever, making structures and this and that and making babies or whatever they do, you know. So probably March is the best time here to go out because the leaves are still off the trees. There's no hunters in the woods. It's nice and quiet.
Because as I recall, not long ago, and I don't know if you heard the news, it kind of made it international news in a way where, was it in Washington State or one of those Western states where I think a couple of researchers going out there exploring the mountains or the woods died, I think, of exposure because they were looking for Bigfoot.
I saw that. Yeah, that was terrible.
Which is, why I asked, because wintertime seems to me like be the worst thing to go out there if you're not a seasoned, hiker or experienced in that sort of thing.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And March is good also because the snow melts and the spring rains start, and the mud is all nice and ooey gooey. You can make tracks. It's probably the best time to go out looking for Bigfoot rather than, say, summertime or fall.
And, well, I think summer also, we kind of dangerous. I mean, not only because of the heat, because there are other animals you have to worry about when you're out there, too.
Right. Like we have bears in Tennessee.
Do you have any big cat sightings over there?
No, not really. If they do, they're very few and far between, and they would be in the eastern part there in the Appalachians.
Because that one for me is not as much Bigfoot. And I know if I ever encounter one, I'm definitely going to be a little bit shaky in the knees with that. And not as much bear because I've had experience with bear. But I think that a big cat for me because they can just blend in and you'll never see them coming.
Right.
But that's the risk a lot of people take when you go out there in the woods and to explore and try to find evidence of Bigfoot. Now, we're going to go back a couple of years. I mean, I first met you over the summer at Wayers Cave, Virginia, and then again just this past summer where they have a great Bigfoot convention there. A lot of the authors are there, creators and speakers are there. When I first met you, you had your first book on the trail of Bigfoot, and during that time, I had you on episode 16. We spent a lot of time talking about how it started with you, but if you don't mind, if we can go back to how this part of your journey began for those that may have missed that episode.
I was in Oregon. I was visiting my daughter, and we were going to do a ghost investigation at the Shanghai tunnels in Portland. We rented a cabin in a Oregon State Park that was halfway between Portland and the ocean. And one morning we decided we was going to go to the ocean, and we were taking back roads to the interstate. And out in this field, I saw these trees stuck in the ground upside down. And I had watched a documentary called Myths and Monsters of Alaska. And one of the segments was the hairy men on the island took blown down trees and stuck them in the ground upside down as like territory markers. So once I saw these, I had to start investigating once I got back to my native Ohio. And it's been down here since then.
And how long ago was that?
That was probably close to 20 years ago.
Right. And I think then Bigfoot was a thing. But, for those who are into that or interested in the field of Bigfoot or paranormal or ufology, I mean, it was common knowledge, but now things have exploded where now you see a lot more sightings of Bigfoot, dogmen, and also I've heard of things about werewolves, but I think it depends on your level of experience, how you identify that creature. Maybe like someone like you would know, oh, that's definitely a Bigfoot or that's definitely a dogman. So what are there some similarities and differences between the two?
I've never encountered a dogman yet. I understand there are some here in Tennessee. I would like to make an effort to locate some or locate evidence. There's an area called the Land Between the Lakes that straddles Tennessee and Kentucky where they're supposed to exist. I'd like to take a trip there to check them out. But as far as in the areas that I investigated, I have never run across any evidence of a dogman yet.
Oh, yeah, I think there's been a lot of reports, but I have seen very little, I'm not going to say evidence, not as much as, because I've never seen a dogman, I guess a footprint be casted, mostly a lot of Bigfoot. In fact, here in my studio, I have a replica one from, I think it was from the Gimlin film.
Right.
Somebody made a replica one. I bought it. I like it. It's a great little piece to have in the studio. Now, with your latest book, Bigfoot Origins, Search for the Cryptid Homeland, we look into the environment and possible locations where Bigfoot could be roaming and living at. What areas are we talking about? Because it's not just here in the United States, but it's almost it's a global thing.
Right. I touch on the Bigfoots in the Pacific Northwest and elsewhere in the United States. Deal with the Yowie in Australia and what's called the Woodwose in the United Kingdom. Now they just call them Bigfoot. But the habitats for all three are very similar. Doing research on this, the Pacific Northwest and the eastern coast of Australia are very, very similar. The terrains, the weather, the temperatures, that type of thing, which leads to a possible conclusion as far as an origin, because they seem to be a cool weather originated creature.
I guess that's kind of good because we're talking about temperatures, would be the best time to go out there and when not to go out there.
Right.
What are the commonalities in these reports? Because I know that depending where you walk into or what time, how are they moving around? Because there's so much woods out there that I guess it would be kind of like getting struck by lightning.
Oh, to actually have a sighting?
Correct. Yes.
I've seen one. Okay. In all the years that I've been investigating Bigfoot, I have encountered one. So I basically look for Bigfoot evidence, the tracks, the structures, that type of thing, where they're at, where they're not, where they could be, that type of thing. And I had my sighting here in Tennessee, which is when I retired here, I found an active area that was actually just 8 miles from my house. So that was very fortunate. But when I encountered this Bigfoot, I was walking an old logging road, and I came up to a high point in the road, and I think I surprised it because I saw it step behind a tree, and nothing came out the other side. So I knew it wasn't a bear; it had to be a Bigfoot. There were actually two of them there because I continued walking, and they started screaming at me. Which the scream sounds like a woman from an old horror movie or something like that. So I knew they were there, and they were letting me know they were there.
When you heard the screams, there's been reports, and I forget the gentleman's name, where the way they communicate, or what was it called, a samurai chat, or there's anything like that, or was it more just like yelling at you, just get out of here kind of thing?
Yelling at me, letting me know they were there, and I probably shouldn't be. I've heard them scream. I've heard them whoop. I've heard them tree knock. I've heard them whistle, but I've never heard the samurai chatter. I guess I haven't been close enough to them to experience that.
Yeah, I think by the time you get that close, you might be in a little bit of trouble depending on what kind of mood they're at. I guess like any creature in the forest would be. And I'll tell you this: you were one of the very early people when I spoke to on this show that you taught me something about the structures, where it's a mode of a communications, correct?
Right. Yep.
And with that, is that something they only do here, or is that they also do it in other parts of the world?
They do that in other parts of the world, but differently. Here in the United States, that's one of the clues to their origin, is because I found a structure in Ohio, and I went on a bear hunt in Nova Scotia, and I was up on my tree stand, and I looked around, and there was the same type of structure in Nova Scotia. And if I find a structure, I can post it on social media that I found this, say in Tennessee, and I'll get pictures and responses that, oh, I found one in Georgia, or I found one in Indiana, or I found one in New York. They have the same type of structures all over the North America that are they have different ones for sure, but they have a set amount of structures that repeats itself all over.
And with these structures, because I can only assume, I've never seen one, at least not yet, my friend. How are they? Let me go back real quick. Let's go back to Ware's Cave. Do you remember a gentleman that had a tree stump and it was really twisted into by hand? It was almost impossible for a human to do this, unless not without tools. So these structures that they're putting together, is this by brute force, or are they using some sort of tools?
I would say it's brute force. Sometimes when I see a structure, I can estimate that it could be just like a show of strength, that type of thing. Like, I am the dominant guy, I am the guru or whatever, and they'll show their strength by doing that to intimidate others.
Right, and then kind of like with different types of animals, they'll do different ways to mark their territories.
Right.
And I don't want to get too graphic on this show. That's other shows do that, not this one. But other than tree structures, are there any certain evidence or scents they leave behind to mark a territory?
I have found probably 5 or 6 dozen tree structures throughout my trips in the woods, and it continues to just surprise me that I keep finding different ones, but you find the same ones also. There has to be a criteria between repeating a structure or creating a new type of structure. And we have no idea what the meanings are for those. I have a theory that some of these could actually be artistic expression.
That makes sense. I think even we've seen cave drawings where they drawn pictures of like antelope, deer, or any kind of animal, and not only for communication, but I think even back then people were expressive and artistic as well.
Right. Oh, absolutely. In Salt Fork State Park in Ohio, when I was investigating there, I found these pine trees arched over a trail that were woven together at the top without the use of any ropes or bindings, and it served no purpose as far as survival or hunting or shelter or anything like that. And the only thing I could think of was this was artistic expression. This was one showing another that, here's some beauty. Look at it.
With some of them being similar, of course, they can all, it's kind of like snowflakes. They all look a little bit different, but they're still a snowflake.
Right.
Out of the ones that you've seen and taken pictures of, in what areas do you find yourself seeing more of them? Are there more, like, say, in Ohio or Tennessee or even, let's say, like Colorado or things like that?
I would say it all depends on the population in the specific areas. In Ohio, I found them in certain areas. They were clumped together in different areas. You go to one area and there's 4 or 5 or 6. You go a mile down into the woods or whatever, and then you'll find another area that has 3 or 4 or 5. And it's basically the same thing what I'm seeing here in Tennessee, is that they have areas where they make these structures, and they make few or several, whatever they, whatever message they want to leave or whatever expression they want to do. But I don't think there is more in one area than another. It all, like I said, it all depends on how many are there. Usually I think there's 2 family groups in the woods that I investigate here.
And when you investigate them, do you do the whole thing with gifting to make sure at least to earn their trust, or are you just watching from a distance? Kind of.
I do not gift. I do not whoop, holler, or tree knock because I don't know the context. I could go out there and whoop and it's a mating call or something, or a war chant or something like that. So I don't do that. I go in quiet and I observe and I look, and I try to blend in with the woods, but I try to stay to where they would consider me on the human side. I don't want to encroach. Okay, that type of thing. You just have to use your judgment and look around the woods and see where you're supposed to be or where you can go, and just go from there.
And with doing that, and other than tree structures, what kind of other evidence, like someone like yourself you're accustomed to going out there and searching for Bigfoot, what else can you see that would be like, okay, we're kind of getting close to someone's territory, that, this is definitely like a Bigfoot town here?
Well, I have cast 8 footprints, and I have cast 3 in Tennessee. I have cast 2 on the same logging road. So this is the area they frequent. So I know I can go in there and probably find a structure or a bent tree or something along those lines, because there's other evidence indicating that they use this territory.
And other than leaving the evidence behind, because I'm thinking, if I'm going to go somewhere where, I'm going to use a generic term, a being or an animal, where they leave things behind. Let's just say like something they eat. What kind of foods are they eating? Are you seeing like deer carcass or animal carcass, or do they also eat plants as well? What is their kind of diet?
I've never found a feeding area. I've actually looked, especially at Salt Fork in Ohio, where they have the fields of like grass and cattails, that type of thing, because cattails are edible. You can use them for a survival food or whatever. And I would figure that Bigfoots would do the same thing, as far as vegetation, they would eat something like that. But I've never found an area that looks like it's been rummaged through for for forage or pulling plants or cattails or even deer carcasses. They seem to hide them quite well. They might have specific eating areas where they do as a group or something along those lines, but they tend to keep those quiet or private, away from what they would consider like a human area.
And that would make sense, because as you were talking about it, I'm kind of thinking maybe they just kind of like humans. They'll hunt something and then put it back in the truck, take it home, go home, skin it, do all these things. They might do something similar over there, where they take it back to their cave or whatever portal they're in, and just go ahead and start doing their part there, for the meal.
Right. That's like I have never found, or I don't think anybody has ever found where they live, their encampment or that type of thing. I have found a couple nests, but the locations where I found them is not where they would live. This would be like an area where they could hunt, use it as a hunting blind, or even to watch for humans. But I don't think anybody has found where they actually live, and that would go along with where they would actually feed.
I don't think you really want to find that, because I think they're kind of upset with you, thinking maybe you might try to steal their food.
Exactly. Or be too close to their young or something along those lines. I also have a theory that when someone sees a Bigfoot, other people go there. Like, I saw a Bigfoot there, at this park or whatever. So everybody goes there and looks around and this and that and whatever. Bigfoot could actually show themselves to people to actually draw them away from areas they don't want us in.
Yeah, and then I'm sure there's plenty of warning before you even hit any kind of areas like that. And talking about areas, because right before we started, we talked about there was a difference between the first book and the second book. So with the second book is searching for the Cryptid Homeland. So you're trying to go back in time, because you're working from now backwards. Where has your research taken you, and in your opinion, where can you pinpoint where you think this began? Where are we?
Well, looking at Bigfoot physically, they have a hooded nose, and if you look at the Patterson film, you watch Patty walking down. She has hair on her breast. One of the things that they said that could be a suit was because she had hair on her breast. Well, no, that's a cool weather adaptation. They're adapted to the cooler weather. They come from cooler weather. They exist basically in cooler weather. So you have to look for that type of origin to find them. And the prevailing theory about where Bigfoot comes from is that Gigantopithecus crossed the land bridge into North America, and that's the theory, because they don't have anything else. That's all they have. But you got to figure that Gigantopithecus was an orangutan. Okay, they diverged from the primate tree about 12 million years ago. And if you look at the Patterson film, if you look at the pictures I've taken of Bigfoot in the wild, these definitely have gorilla features. They have the brow ridge and the conical heads. So if Gigantopithecus came across the land bridge and became Bigfoot, as they profess, that would be reverse evolution. That would be like humans going back to being chimpanzees. So we have to look for another source or another homeland from, or where they came from.
That's very interesting. I was just having a conversation with somebody where talking about when humans going back into evolutionary, like you were talking about, we would basically go back to just being feral humans, but we can't, like I said, we can't go back to being apes.
Exactly.
So there's something between that caused this animal or being to be what we consider to be a Bigfoot. So in a sense, it would make it less human and more of the ape.
I look at the different attributes that people think that Bigfoot has, like being human. One, what makes us human? We have to look at what makes us human, and it's our ingenuity, our progressive technology. We go from one point to a next point to a next point, going down to until we're so complicated we can't even use a phone, like me. But Bigfoots, they don't use fire, they don't use tools. They have been basically the same throughout history. There was a sighting in the year 986 by Leif Erikson, the Viking explorer. Him and his men encountered Bigfoot. So they've been around for thousands of years and have not progressed any further than what they have, originally.
What do you think that is? Is it because they don't need to progress? Well, and I'm talking from a human perspective. For us, progression is technology.
Right.
But then again, if technology went away, very few of us would know how to recreate that technology. We kind of would go a little bit backwards.
Right.
Where I think Bigfoot is in a perfect environment because it doesn't have to learn technology. It can just survive being Bigfoot.
They are masters of their domain as much as we are masters of our domain. Okay. See what I'm saying? They don't progress because they don't need to, for one thing. They are, content with the way they are. And they're very intelligent, but like other species, like chimpanzees or mountain gorillas or that type of thing, they don't develop technology. They are at home in their environment, and they're content, and they get this is what they do. This is their livelihood. This is how they exist. They don't need to develop rockets or cars or phones or this or that. There's no need for it.
And in a sense, they're more advanced than us survival wise, because I think if you look at the regular Joe Lunchpail out there, put them in the middle of the woods, I mean, it's going to be over within a few days unless they get rescued. Where a Bigfoot can just pretty much live out a whole life and be fine.
Oh, exactly. And there's probably Bigfoot in the Pacific Northwest who's never seen a human. They have no idea what a human is. And they just go about their lives, content with what they are. Like I said, there could be some artistic expression, but that's as far as any development would go. There would be no development of writing or making cave paintings or that type of thing, because it's not their suit to do that.
And they're probably passing down generation to generation their knowledge, and I guess watching others, the way they survive and the way they hunt and the way they create these structures. So I guess there's no real need for an alphabet or any kind of what we consider a language.
Right. Now, I truly believe that the Bigfoot structures are a type of language. Like I said, I found structures in Ohio that were the same as in Nova Scotia, and there's a certain group of structures that you'll find all over the country. Now, this has to be learned activity. They have to teach their young this, okay? And the humans crossed the land bridge and developed different indigenous tribes, and they all had their own language. They developed a sign language so they can communicate amongst themselves. But each tribe, like the Iroquois, the Apache, or whatever, had their own language. Now, Bigfoot, if they use a structure language, there had to have been an original population in the beginning that either knew the structure language or developed it, and then they scattered from there. So there had to be a specific origin for all of them in one group or whatever. They had to have been brought here, okay? Because crossing a land bridge haphazardly, you would not have this structure language because they'd be too scattered to be able to learn from each other and to teach it to their kids.
I mean, that's incredible. But I would assume that their numbers, maybe they're not that much, seeing that you don't see a lot of them. And I know that they're masters of their domain, they're great at hiding and stuff, but there has to be a point to where if they have growing numbers, the frequency of sightings might increase. And there would be eventually, you gotta hope it never happens where one gets caught and scientists get a hold of it or the government. It would be terrible.
Oh yeah. But as far as that goes, we have no idea how many Bigfoot are out there. Some scientists speculate thousands. I think there's probably at least 1 million out there. From what I've seen in the different areas that I've investigated, and like I said, they go in family groups, and if they had a common origin, then they would be able to communicate amongst themselves. I found a structure in Salt Fork, Bigfoot structure. The picture of it is in my book there, and I watched this over a summer. I take pictures of it every couple of weeks, every once a month or something like that. And looking at the pictures, there were subtle changes made to this structure. Items were added, items were removed. Just you wouldn't notice it unless you knew what it was. And to me, this was a form of communication, because if you change the structure, you change the message. And being scattered, they could put it in a strategic location to where they could go here maybe once or twice a month to get information on what another group is doing, like Aunt Flo's in town or Sally Joe's pregnant or something, something along those lines. It's a way they can communicate to let each other know what's going on without having to be together.
And that makes sense. Leaving little bits of information for each one to look at, that way they know where they're going, what's going on,
right?
And potential dangers, of course. And talking about something similar to that. So let's say how far, and I'll use the term inland, are these things to where, so let's say, for instance, you're with a group of people or a group of researchers get together. How far into the, I'll say, uninhabited forests here in the United States would they have to go to actually encounter, I'll say, a whole tribe or like a town of Bigfoot?
I don't think they congregate that way. Like I said, I believe they're in small groups. The belief is that they're in like family unions with maybe one or two additional, and they might get together once there was once they read a message or something along those lines, to where they need to get together because maybe there's food shortages or that type of thing. There's a drought or something. They can get together and talk amongst themselves or communicate amongst themselves as to where they can go to alleviate this problem. Something along those lines.
All right. And that's fair enough. I think it's from a survival standpoint, I think smaller numbers would be better as far as not being caught by humans or anything, or a predatory animal of sorts.
Oh, I would go along with that. Absolutely. Another thing, like I said, if there was like a disease situation where like this bird flu going around or something like that, that would tend to isolate the infection or whatever to just a small area.
No, I mean, that's a lot smarter than us. We like to congregate into putting millions of people in a small island and building structures, and everybody sneezing and coughing in the subway. It's terrible. So I guess for them, that's even better. They're smarter than us. Now it's trying to come up with a great question about this, because there's different opinions with Bigfoot, and I'm not going to challenge any of those opinions. I think we're all entitled to having them. With Bigfoot and the paranormal or UFOs or anything like that, is there anything connected to this? There are those that think that these Bigfoot is goes down the paranormal route, or that sometimes you'll see a Bigfoot shortly after a UFO sighting. Are Bigfoot just their own thing? Is there anything even paranormal about them?
Nothing that I've ever encountered. I've never ran into anything that would lead me to believe that there was anything other than an unknown ape, UFOs, and that type of thing. That could be a coincidence. A lot of people associate what's called the lights. They see these lights and associate those with Bigfoot. I've actually been to Brown Mountain in North Carolina. Have you ever heard of the Brown Mountain lights?
My memory's foggy, but
Okay. The Brown Mountain lights are like these different lights, different colored lights that have been seen for like over 100 years in this one particular area. And Native American thinks it's the souls of warriors that have passed or whatever. Well, my wife and I went there and camped, and we actually saw the lights. I saw what I thought was somebody walking through the woods with a flashlight, and they started morphing and separating into more lights, different colors. I actually saw one red one shoot up into the sky, and then they just started blinking off. I believe, from what I saw, that these are natural, of an unknown origin, but I don't think these were associated with Bigfoot in any way, shape, or form. And that's what they could be running into, is these natural type of lights in the woods. And they say, well, it's got to be Bigfoot or something like that, which I don't think so. I don't think there's any correlation there. But as far as paranormal, I've never seen any evidence. And I don't think there could be a paranormal connection with them from what they are generally, if you understand. The way they are, as far as the groups, I don't think there's any paranormal connection at all there.
and that's fair enough. But I mean, you never know. And I'm not trying to change your mind, but things are so mysterious that sometimes there might be an instance where that might be the case. I'm of the opinion of kind of like you. I think it's a separate thing. I think sometimes these things are on the crossroads, but I think it's more accidental than on purpose.
Okay, like they say, well, Bigfoot can cloak. Okay, that type of thing. Okay, like I said, I'm sure there's Bigfoot in the Northeast or the Northwest that's never seen a human. They don't know what a human is. Why would they want to cloak? And to develop a characteristic like cloaking, it usually takes about 6 generations to install a trait. Now, if a Bigfoot generation is 50 years, that puts them into the 1700s. Why would they want to start cloaking in the 1700s? You have to look at that aspect of it.
Unless no, not unless, but it's something that would be natural, kind of like there are fish or lizards that can blend into, let's say, algae or a rock or a tree or a leaf. I think it's kind of like some sort of defensive mechanism
Like
if they needed
chameleon?
to do that, right?
Right.
But I think if we're talking about the 1700s, it's been brought that Bigfoot and Native Americans in some areas were at least living with each other, or at least friendly towards each other.
Right.
And if that's the case, I guess it wouldn't need to cloak if everything's going all right. I think it became an issue once explorers came and started pretty much tearing down the houses, they say, but that's the stories for other times. And then let's look at Bigfoot Origins, the search for the Cryptid Homeland, being your second book. Now, are you looking to do a third book?
No, I think I've covered this pretty good.
No, that's fair enough. And that's fine. Will there be any other topics you'll be covering, or aside from Bigfoot?
My winter project is I'm working on a book with a working title of Life and Death, Variations of the Same Thing.
All right.
Because I hunt ghosts also. I do ghost photography.
That's right. I remember you were mentioning that. And are you going to have some of those pictures in that book?
Absolutely.
Oh, my. That's going to be awesome.
I have a photo album full. We have investigated from Michigan to Florida. We've done investigations in 15 states. And I catch stuff all the time. I use a full spectrum camera, and it's really cool.
Oh, that's awesome. And see, it's one of those things where sometimes you see Bigfoot and the paranormal kind of came to your life together, but not the same thing. But at least, you're one of the lucky ones where you can actually research both and get, evidence and to get to share with the readers and people who come see you at these shows. So now with 2025 being here and event season starting to heat up here in the next couple of months, where are you going to be this year?
So far, I've booked 3. I always go to the Ohio Bigfoot Conference. I'm going to the Virginia, and there's a Bigfoot festival like 10 miles from where I live. I always do that one. The vendors tables don't usually start opening up for these events till like early spring, but I'll have my eye out for them.
And there's plenty of them. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be in a few myself this year. I'll probably run into you because I'm always around somewhere. So before we go, my friend, and I know we touched on this earlier, you're an experienced person when it comes to hunting or being in the woods and what have you.
Right.
Bringing up the story from earlier, these 2 individuals who perished due to exposure from the elements. They were actually looking for evidence, looking for a Bigfoot. Can you give us a couple of, I guess, some advice that you would give us to say that when you go out there and try to at least doing research and hiking, what to look out for, how to be prepared in order not to wind up like those 2?
Well, it's like anything else. If you're going deer hunting or that type of thing, you go in prepared to do what you want to do. Know the area, for one thing. Tell somebody where you're going, so if you're late or don't show back up, they know where to look for it. Be quiet, be respectful when you go in, because you're in their living room. Yeah, just don't leave your trash or whatever. But when you go in, be prepared for like the elements, the weather, the situations you're going to be in. If you're going to be in a mountainous area or something, wear proper footwear, that type of. Just use your head. Plan ahead and use your head, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, just prepare yourself for the location where you're going. So that makes perfect sense. And for our friends, the listeners that would like to learn more about you, your books, and where you're going to be next, where can they go find out?
My book, Bigfoot Origins, is available on Amazon. Like I said, just watch my author's page as I post where I'll be. Like I said, my first one is in May in Ohio, and then Virginia in June, but I'm sure I'll be one in April and on into the summer as they open up.
Excellent. When you release your 3rd book with the spirit photography and about your investigations, I would love to have you back on. Let's talk about these pictures. Let's talk more about your experiences with the paranormal.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you, my friend. This has been another excellent episode of Let's Find Out with Diego. Please check us out on all our social media pages, as well as on YouTube and Rumble. Like, share, and subscribe. Also, Let's Find Out is on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. Catch the show on Saturdays at 2 a.m. For more information, please visit kgradb.com. That's kgradb.com. Together, we will get one step closer to finding out. Thank you for taking this journey with me. Until next time, my friends.
Let's find out with Diego! The power of Diego madness! Ooh, yeah! All content for Let's Find Out is property of co-host Diego and is served directly from our servers with no modification, redirects, or rehosting. All celebrity impersonators are paid performers. The impersonated celebrities do not endorse or promote any views or opinions expressed by our guests, co-host Diego, or Let's Find Out. The information shared on Let's Find Out is provided on an as-is basis, with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness.